it's Jenny from Ginger Ninja Crafts. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I am here to make my first Christmas in July video for 2025, and I'm quite late getting started because it's the 10th when I'm filming this. So what I'm going to make is some split front Christmas cards. Well, I'm going to do one with you, and then I'm going to show you at the end a little slideshow of some of the other ones that I've made. So obviously these don't need to be Christmas cards. This is one that I made a few weeks ago. Oh, excuse me. And I used measurements from a Pinterest post, and I just made this little summery card. But what I've done is I've adapted it to be like a 5.5 square. So this is my 5.5 square one. So it sits up like that. And I saw, I think it was Katerina made some beautiful cards, or a beautiful card with an acetate kind of layer, and I really liked it, but I think I've only got kind of scabby acetate that's been in packaging, and so I didn't really have nice acetate to use. And then I saw this one, and it's got the kind of look of the space, but it's not got acetate, so if the person wants to recycle it, they can just stick it in the recycling. So this is the measurements that I'm going to use, and you make your card with just one sheet of A4, so that's always good. So you're going to cut your card base at 5.5 by 11, and I will put all of these measurements in the description box below. So let me get my trusty paper cutter out. So I'm going to cut 11 and 5.5. A bit light down here. It's a lovely day outside, but it's always a bit dark in this one, probably because I've got so much stuff in front of the window. So I'm going to keep that piece there as well. So that is going to be my card base. Now I'm going to, from this excess piece here, I'm going to cut the panel, which is going to be this panel here. And I'm going to cut that at 4.5 by 2 3/4, because this is just slightly over that. So I'm just going to trim that down because it just makes it easier for matting and layering. So that's needed. Now this one I'm going to cut a piece off the end which measures 1.5 inches, and I'm going to keep that. That's going to be the bottom strip for my card. And then I'm going to cut out a 2.5 strip, which I'm not going to use in this card, so that can just go to the side. Okay, so now I need to score. So I'm going to take this along that longer edge and score at 1.5. Oh no, 5.5, sorry. 5.5, which gives you this bit which is 1.5 inches. So I'll fold that. Now I've cut a panel which is just going to make it easier to see, and this is what I would write on anyway. So this panel, I think it's 5.25 by 5.25, and I'm just going to pop that in. As I say, it just helps with a little bit of contrast for the camera. So we've got this piece at the top measuring 1.5 inches, and I've cut my piece for the bottom that is also 1.5 inches, and then this piece is going to sit there, and that is going to be the basic structure of the card. However, I need to do some matting and layering, obviously, so I'm going to use some papers which I was very kindly gifted by Sabine over at Cross Keys Crafts. I always find that tricky to say. So these, as you can see, I've done a bit of fussy cutting already with this. I think this one I might do a little nutcracker. So let me see, is that, yeah, I could maybe use that one there. So I've got this pretty nutcracker paper that I could use. I've also got the drums, because the whole thing of these pieces of paper she gave me where it's the 12 Days of Christmas. So on this one that I made, I've used the partridge in a pear tree, which was here. That one is just a Christmas tree, but we've got the 2 turtle doves, we've got the, there they are again, the swans are swimming, the drums are drumming. So yes, so I think I will use this one as like the focal image. So I'm just gonna cut this little tag out. Then I can see which patterns I want on which side, and I think I will use, I've got this kind of sort of old gold that I'm going to use for the matte layers, I think. So I could do that on, so does this one go on to the drummers? I think it goes on the drummers. So let me cut. I think I've done this. Yes, this one I've already cut. So these pieces measure 5.5 by 1.5, and I'm going in like 1/8 of an inch. Is that right? So this should measure yes, so 5 3/8, and then I'm going to cut 2 strips that are 1 3/8, and that's going to be the layers for the top and the bottom. Then this one is 2 3/4 by 4.5, so it's going to be 4 3/8, like so, by 2 3/4, so 2 5/8. Like so. So I'm going to have the drums on the longer panel, so that is going to be 4 1/4 by 2.5, so 2.5 by 4 1/4. I'll pop all these measurements in the description box too if you want to make one this size, but you get the gist of it. And then I'm going to put this cute paper on the top and the bottom, so that is 5 1/4. That's 4 1/4. 5 1/4 by 1 1/4. Oops. So I'm just going to pause you while I glue these bits together. Okay, so I've just popped the mats and layers on, so that top piece is in place. This one's going to be the one at the bottom, and then this is going to be our panel for the middle. So how I put this together, I usually use wet glue if you watch my videos, but for this I'm just using a bit of double-sided tape along the top and the bottom, and you need to make sure that however thick or thin this is, that it's not going to hang over the edge, the top and the bottom. So this one is just right. It doesn't, it's not too close at all, so I don't want any stickiness hanging over. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line up this bottom panel so that it is perfectly lined up with the edges and the bottom, and then I'm just going to stick my scissors there to kind of weigh that down. And then I'm going to peel off that top and that bottom. Make sure I've got it the right way up, and then sort of just make sure I'm happy with the position before I pop that down. So there we go, that is the sort of structure of the card now there, and now it's just popping this in place. So what I also really need is a wee sentiment. So I've got this Merry Christmas, which I think is a wee bit too big, so let me just pause you a second. Right, so I've just cut this little Happy Christmas. It is a little bit sort of hidden, isn't it? I wonder if I should mount it on a wee bit of green. Yeah, I'll do that. So yeah, what do you think? Have you ever made one of these split front cards? I don't know if this counts as a fancy fold. I hope it does. It's more a fancy cut, really. But I'll pop a couple of photos at the end. I've got a lady who gives me a big long list every year for birthday cards and anniversary cards and things, and I think this is about my 3rd year of doing them for this lady, so it's the same people. It gets a little tricky to think you know. Okay, another golf birthday card for the same lady. So I did one with this technique and some nice patterned papers and a stamp, just quite simple. I wonder if I might put a little red underneath. So I'll add that little photo in at the end, because it's quite, I mean, obviously it's a style of a card, it doesn't have to be Christmas, but I thought with these nice coordinating papers and things that I've been gifted from Sabine, that that would be very nice. Wonder. I don't want to. I wonder if I could trim this down. I might regret doing this. Looks a little squint. Okay, let me do a little layering here. I use this little tell when I'm concentrating. I'm worried I've done it wrong because I go a bit quiet. Maybe on a bit of the red too. Maybe this is too much for this front, and maybe I need a smaller greeting, but I'm just going to cut a wee panel bit that can stick under that end. Just under there, that just so, like so. And then sort of in the middle. And then maybe some wee Nouveau drops, because I am addicted to Nouveau drops. So I've got a kind of red glitter, which I don't think is right. A greeny, I don't think that's right. Maybe just go with the gold. Three down there and maybe three there. Okay. So keep watching if you want to see a little slideshow of some more of this style of card. But yeah, let me know if you have made one of these before, or if you're going to give it a go, and if you're doing any Christmas in July crafting, let me know that too. Thanks so much for watching. Take care now. Bye.